Hey people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here, and in this video we're going to be talking about recovery. I have been testing these. These are the brand new compression boots from Therabody. They're called the Jet Boots. They are completely wireless and cordless, which is very different from the compression boots we've seen before, which have been a bit cumbersome. And now I've been testing them, and in this video I'm going to tell you how they stack up versus the more expensive kind of Recovery Air Pro, whether or not they're worth the £800 price tag, and if these could be the secret to a faster recovery. So first let's get into a few of the key specs and design details. Well, the price of these, they're not cheap. They're going to come in at £799 or just shy of $900 in the US. They come in three sizes. You can buy a small, medium and large, and that covers people from 5 foot up to 6'6". The weight per single boot for the small is 1.86 kilos. In a medium, that's just shy of 2 kilos, and the large come in at bang on 2 kilos. There's an adjustable pressure range that goes from 25 to 100 millimeters of mercury. That goes up in increments of 25 per step. And there are also time presets, 20 minutes, 40 minutes and 60 minutes, or you can select a continuous setting and just go as long or as short as you like. Overall, you're going to get 4 hours battery life from a single charge. The boots carry Bluetooth to connect to each other and the Therabody app. First up, let's look at what they are. So these are basically compression boots. We've seen them kind of initially from the likes of kind of Normatec. There are lots of brands out there who've got different compression boots. They were originally kind of something that were used by elite athletes, essentially, and you might find them in if you go into sort of a physio appointment or a proper kind of sports lab. But now they've kind of crossed over into sort of the real world. For us kind of real world sort of amateurs, become slightly more affordable and more accessible. And that's where these Jet Boots really fit in. They have two key differences from some of those past models that we've seen before. The first is that they are wireless. There's no kind of cords or cables. You're not connected to a big pump. The pump is built into the boots. And that makes them a lot more portable. They're a lot less kind of cumbersome to use. They're easier to stash and generally just a little bit more accessible. The other difference with Therabody's implementation of the compression boots is that they use sequential compression. Now what that means is the chambers fill starting at the foot up through the leg, following your body's kind of natural circulatory kind of system and flow. Other boots basically fill with air in one go all over the leg. So that kind of sequential compression is a different kind of setup to what you might find in some of the alternatives on the market. Now, why would you even use these? Well, the main aim here really from compression is to give yourself a kind of circulatory boost, to get the blood flowing more after you've done some kind of particularly hard or arduous exercise, or even if you've just been sat still for a whole day and you want to help give your body a bit of a circulatory boost. Now, essentially what you're doing is temporarily increasing blood flow to targeted areas, and by getting that circulatory boost, you're removing some of the byproduct, the waste products that might come when you're training hard and breaking down muscles. And when you've been through a particularly long and arduous run, the metabolic waste, if you like, you're helping to move that and flush it out of your system faster, giving your circulation a bit of a kick. Now, overall, the benefits of that are you can reduce kind of muscle soreness, that delayed onset muscle soreness that we all kind of experience. You'll know it if you run a marathon the following day. You'll be feeling that. You can also help decrease the swelling and stiffness of muscles and get rid of some of that muscle fatigue that you might feel after you've done a particularly tough run. So onto the run test, and first up let's talk about the practical logistical stuff. I think for a recovery product to really be good and work, I always got to gauge how easily it fits into my daily running habits. It has to be easy to use. It has to be easy to make part of your regular habits. Now the one thing, I've used the Therabody Recovery Air an awful lot in the past, and the one big difference here, and I think a major step on, is the portability and the ease of use of these new Jet Boots. The fact that you don't have to have them kind of tethered to each other or tethered to a pump makes a huge difference, not only when you're putting them on, but in terms of moving around. You haven't got these kind of big cords running into the pump or the plug going into the socket. They're also much easier to stash. They're a little bit more compact, much easier to get on, much easier to kind of maneuver. With the Recovery Air, I kind of felt like I had to nip off into the bedroom and use them where I could lie out flat in the bed with plenty of space. These, I think, are much, much more kind of sofa and lounge friendly. The other major difference here is you've got the controls built into the top of each boot. There's one set of controls on each boot, though one control will control both boots the minute you've kind of paired them using the Bluetooth. Simple controls, which is really nice and easy to use. You can power them on, you can adjust the time, you can adjust the pressure in increments. Easy to use, no confusion here. You can hit play and off you go. You can pause as well, which I found really useful. If you Go halfway through using this and you realise that you need a wee because you've been doing your recovery hydration right. That has happened to me. You can pause this, unzip, and out you get. The other thing I really like, there's some such nice touches, that having these massive kind of pull cables on the zips rather than small zips really helps. Here's why. When you put your foot in and that zip is right down the bottom and you have to stretch down and you've run 26 miles, it can be a long way down there to your toes when you get to 43 like me. This little bit of extra really helps you get hold of that and zip it right up. Makes it nice and easy to get in and out of these boots with no problem at all. The other neat touch is that the inside of these boots is deliberately designed with no seams, and that makes them kind of easy to wipe clean, and that means you can kind of stop bacteria gathering in those seams if you happen to be kind of sweaty or whatever. They're just nice and easy to clean. If you're going to use them over a long time, or you're going to switch between people, that's a really nice touch. You know, that inside lining is kind of smooth enough and they're comfortable enough to wear, though I definitely kind of found it a bit more comfortable to wear like a light tracksuit bottom, or even kind of a pair of running leggings in there as well, just to make it a little bit more comfortable. When it came to battery life, overall I found it lived up to the 4-hour billing, and there's more than enough here to carry you over a race weekend for use kind of pre and after your race. Now, speaking of that portability, now even though these are definitely more portable than the Recovery Air and the Air Pro by a long chalk, they still weigh 2 kilos each per boot. So you're looking at 4 kilos extra in a suitcase. That's quite a lot if you're just traveling with carry-on. You can use them independently, which is interesting. They also will take up quite a space in a suitcase, so you can sort of pack them down, you know, small enough, but it's not going to be an inconsiderable extra weight and space in a suitcase if you're taking them away for a weekend or longer. Now, you can also pack them in your hand luggage. The batteries are okay with that, or they can go into the hold. If it were me personally, I don't think I would be taking these for a city marathon away. I might take them if I were going to go on something that's a bit more kind of long, like an ultra or something where I'm going to really feel that benefit a lot more afterwards, and I'm happy to take the weight. What I would certainly do is whack them in the carry case and stick them in the boot if I'm travelling to an ultra, and if I'm not driving myself home, and after I'd be sitting in the passenger seat with my legs in these boots for sure. Now, the other thing to note here in terms of practicality is that they are a tad noisy. The Recovery Air were also a bit noisy, and these haven't really moved on from that. It doesn't really bother me as the user, but I certainly got a few funny looks when I whacked them on whilst we were watching Netflix on a couple of evenings, a few sort of side eyes. So I wasn't the most popular person using them. I think there's something that, you know, they are a little bit interruptive in terms of the noise. So I guess then on to the important feeling. How do they feel, and more importantly, kind of do they work? Well, the feeling is somewhat sort of like when a doctor puts one of those kind of pressure cuffs on your arm, when it pumps up and inflates. You just get that over your whole leg, although it's kind of doesn't ever quite go as tight as one of those cuffs can when the doctor does it. And that compressive feeling moves section by section from your foot all the way up past the calves onto your quads. It takes about 60 seconds to do that before it then kind of releases and the whole cycle goes back and starts again. Now, you can control the pressure really easily, and this is one of those situations where more isn't necessarily better, and getting a good feel for, you know, how your own body feels, I think, is important when you're using these. And when I compare these to those kind of original first gen Recovery Air, in truth, I didn't really feel too much of a difference in terms of that overall kind of implementation of the pressure on the legs. They both sort of did a similar job to me, which I think is fantastic because of the price of these new jet boots. So do they work? Well, this is a little harder to judge. Now, there is a kind of a wealth of research information that suggests that compression is an effective kind of recovery solution. It's something that you can use in various different guises, whether that's, you know, running through water in a pool can help, even just lying with your legs submerged, to wearing kind of compression tights after a run. Those kind of things can all help. You know, a classic kind of sports massage, all these things kind of can help get the circulation flowing again. Now, if you're like me, I tend to take a more is more approach to recovery, where I'll sort of throw everything that I can at it. That includes kind of having a right approach to what I refuel with, hydrating properly, getting enough good quality sleep. You know, I might wear some compression tights afterwards. I might even jump into the pool for a bit to get those legs moving, going for kind of walks immediately after I've done a marathon in the afternoon. You know, keep that blood flowing. I do all of these things as much as I can to recover. And I think these are something that you can build into your recovery, and they will have an impact. I use the Recovery Air Pro every day during my 7 marathons in 7 days that I did back in November. And all I can say is that I definitely sort of felt much better the following day when I went to run again. One thing I know is after 40 minutes sat in these boots, my flexibility after a big long, like I did an 18 miler on Sunday where I came back and for a little bit, I started to seize up, feel a bit stiff. I haven't run that far in a little while, so I was sort of starting to do that bit where you start to walk a little bit like John Wayne. After I'd been in the boots for 40 minutes, my flexibility, some of it had returned, although be it was sort of slightly temporary. The other thing I can really say is that this has a feeling when you're using it which is quite pleasant. I really like the sensation. It's a little bit like having a sports massage where, you just know, you get this idea, you know that it's sort of maybe slightly uncomfortable in some ways, but you know that it's doing some good. This is sort of similar. You're sat there and you can feel something happening that just feels positive, I believe. In the past, I've kind of likened it to a little bit to feeling, not exactly, but it's a bit like a feeling of having an itch scratched. I get the same sensation. I did a 100-mile ultra, which is largely flat, and at some points we had to go up and over these bridges. That was the only incline that I had, and it was the sort of sensation of relief that I got when I went up those bridges and I moved from one muscle group to the other from going on a slight rise. It's a sort of similar feeling that I get here. It's just like an easy kind of relief. It's very relaxing, and yeah, it just feels overall like something positive is happening. You can feel your legs, starting to sort of send positive signals to the brain, is how I feel. And then after each session, during that 7 in 7, and when I've been using these jet boots, your legs just instantly feel lighter. You feel a bit more flexible. Some of that muscle soreness does diminish. And I do believe that this has an impact in helping you get going again the next day, along with your other kind of recovery things. This isn't a silver bullet by any stretch of the imagination. I don't believe that you can put these on after a really silly hard run and expect to be going back and doing a really silly hard run the next day. You wouldn't want to do that anyway. But yeah, this is all like an incremental improvement. It isn't going to fix everything. It's part of a recovery system. And I guess one of the questions that people might ask, would you get the same from wearing a pair of compression tights? Would you get the same from doing a little bit of that sort of aqua jogging? No, is the short answer to me. These are far more targeted. The pressure is far higher, and I feel like they just do a much better job of kind of that overall soothing and bringing kind of relief to those sort of tired legs. Verdict then, well, I was a fan of the Recovery Air and I'm a fan of these jet boots. I think they're actually a step on from those, particularly for kind of regular runners. The best tools for recovery are those that you can adopt into your sort of daily habits easily, and these are definitely more accessible, more portable, more stashable, more usable, more user-friendly than the Recovery Air. The Recovery Air are a good product, but these I think just make it a whole lot more simple to use, and that's something that I really like. The controls on the boots are a big step on. I really like the fact that you can, use them independently. There's no pump, you're not tethered. All of those things are really, really powerful. If you want to get really into the sort of micro detail of gradiated sort of pressure, you get a little bit more control when you go up the chain in terms of these products. The higher, more expensive the product, the more control and the more laser focused you can be in terms of how you deliver that recovery to your own sort of personal sort of specifications. But I think for most people, these are going to be ample, out the box, whack them on, and they'll give you that sort of 20 minutes, 40 minutes or an hour sort of targeted recovery that you need to sort of recover from a marathon or from your long Sunday run. Or even I think if you've just had a long day in the office where you're sat down at a desk and you haven't moved a lot, you whack these on and you can get the circulation flowing, and they're a good tool to implement into sort of your daily sort of holistic kind of well-being, running sort of health, whatever you want to call it. That overall stuff that kind of makes you fit to go out and run again. I think these can be an important part of that. They're not just for kind of post-run recovery sessions. Now, the people I think who are going to benefit most from these with this investment, it's £800 is still quite a lot of money, and the people who are going to benefit really most of those people who are probably following quite a structured training program. Whether you're doing that just for fitness or you're actually doing it with an end goal in mind. I think that if you're doing that lots of running and you want to be able to sort of recover and improve, I think this will slot in nicely. If you look at that £800 price tag, the way that I kind of stack this up in my head in terms of is it good value for money, in the UK you can easily pay sort of £40-50 for a sports massage. Now these don't exactly replace that. I would still want to have one of those every now and again, but over a period of a year or 2 years, you're going to get quite a lot of benefits from investing in these boots. It's a longer term investment. Also, more than one person in the family can obviously use them. Now, are they essential? I don't think so. They're a nice to have, I think, rather than a must have, and particularly because of that investment. There's other ways that you can clear that kind of metabolic waste from your legs without strapping into a pair of these boots. Do I like having them around? Absolutely. Will I use them often? Yes. Do I think they're a really useful tool? I do. And I think if you can afford them and you would make good use of them, I think you won't be disappointed in having these around, particularly if you sort of do lots of longer ultra stuff. Now, I guess one of the questions is, should you go for the jet boots or should you go higher up for the new Recovery Air or the Recovery Air Pro? I think this is a simple one. I think the jet boots are going to be ample for most runners, unless you're kind of really very serious about your sport and you really care about being able to sort of tweak that kind of gradated sort of pressure sensors and get really into the settings and personalization. Maybe, you know, there are some more kind of programs that you might find. Things like on the top end, you know, if you've got a therapist, they can send sessions to the boots that you can then use, so they can deliver what they want to you remotely. All of those things come with the higher end. But for most people, £800 to get these kind of sort of more plug and play, it's more easy to use kind of jet boots, I think is going to be absolutely ample. So there you have it. That's my review of the Therabody Jetboots. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, don't forget to hit us up below. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can in those comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you'll hear about more reviews we've got coming up on the channel soon. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, taking you through this product. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.